Karen, we are here on Perkins Avenue in the South Elmwood section of Cranston, where for a second straight day, the swollen Patuxent River is still flowing through the homes here.
So it was, you know, really a disaster statewide. But just imagine, I mean, everything in your house, right? Just completely underwater, completely saturated. Some people just didn't have a chance to take many belongings. Nobody thought it was going to get that bad that quickly. So some folks grabbed their wallet, their phone, but they didn't take, you know, pictures. They didn't take furniture. They didn't take toys. They didn't take personal belongings. So really, in some cases, people lost everything. There were some nonprofit organizations that came in to help people. And then there was FEMA, you know, that came in to nominally help. I think some frustrating things with that, you know, people were out of their house, staying in hotels, and FEMA would set up a command post, and you go to the FEMA trailer, and then they'd tell the person to go online and fill out some forms. And it's like, I'm here in person with you now. Well, what do you mean I got to go find an internet connection, get online and fill out some forms? Like, why can't the FEMA person just fill out the forms? Seems rather silly, and I think that's a standard practice they continue, you know, pushing everyone to these online portals as opposed to just direct help now. We found that the standard way that we invoice, the standard way that we bill for insurance was not acceptable to FEMA. There's a lot of things they didn't want to pay for, even though they were things that we needed to do to properly dry and clean the house. And they would just dig in and not pay. So the homeowner would be stuck with, you know, a bill, or we would just have to, you know, throw our hands up and not get paid for work we did. Customers were very frustrated, not black and white on what's covered and what's not covered. You know, with respect to their house, with respect to their temporary living arrangements, with respect to their damaged contents. I mean, furniture, again, they've lost everything. And they thought, well, remember, most people have no flood insurance, so most people had nothing, zero, had to pay out of pocket. But those that did have flood insurance thought they had some kind of protection. And in my opinion, the FEMA-backed insurance is pretty worthless and not helpful in these situations. FEMA was so difficult to deal with, getting paid took months. So typically for insurance, we will start the work, do the work, then invoice the insurance company and then get paid. We're comfortable doing that because we're going to get paid eventually. Even if we have to wait, we're comfortable doing that. With FEMA, we did the work. We submitted the invoices, and then we kept running into roadblocks. So much red tape, bureaucracy, BS to get paid. We paid our employees, we paid our vendors, we paid for fuel, we paid for everything, but I had no income coming in. And we were literally like running out of cash to pay our employees because we're waiting on these FEMA payments. And the customers are out and they don't have the money. They're frustrated. So we had done one huge job, and you know, we weren't getting paid. And of course, then they really, you know, they have the power, they have the purse, and I had to make a decision to settle a large loss for a fraction of what we invoiced, you know, a fraction of what we would have gotten paid with a regular insurance company, just to pay our bills. So we did a lot of work, and not the most profitable work, and we did a lot of work and almost put us out of business trying to help people.
I mean, you don't have a house. And you always hear about people like, how does someone become homeless? You know, are they gambling too much? Are they drinking too much? They just had some hard times and lost a job. How do they become homeless? It's just one series of events after another. But I was looking at that, and at that moment I said, it only takes one of these things to make you homeless. It wasn't a series of events. It was just one flood, and I was on the street, and we were homeless for 9 months. We lived with friends for a couple months, and then we moved in with my parents in their basement. with my kids, and I had to run my business because I owned a business, web design, marketing business. We had to run that out of the basement at the bar, at my parents' bar in their basement, unfinished basement. I had my laptop, the whole thing. And every day I just, it's like, I think of that movie, It's a Beautiful Life, where the, Nazi Germany, the father would joke around with his kids pretending that the Nazis were actually clowns. And he'd say, oh, here comes the clown. Let's try to hide. And, he didn't want his kids to go through or to know what was happening. Well, I would pretend the bar was an ice cream parlor. And I'd say, okay, kids, we're going to have an ice cream parlor. It's England's ice cream. And they're like, yeah. And they'd come up to the parlor, and there's a fridge back there. I would pour them ice cream. And I didn't want them to feel like we were homeless. And not that that's something to be ashamed of. It's just, I wanted them to not feel the pressure that I felt. And it was extremely difficult to smile and be happy. And seeing my kids smile and be happy. And we were a mess. My wife and I were a mess. And getting a check from the insurance company was brutal. They'd only pay you in thirds. It was $140,000 check. Thank God we had flood insurance. FEMA said that they would bring us back to where we were before the flood. They would fix, pay for a fence, pay for a swimming pool. They didn't, because that's not attached to the house. So there was lies. I'm grateful for FEMA, but there's, something like that happens. You got to be careful where you get your information from. And that was just tough. And my strongest memory of that event had to be a woman who lived across the street, and she saw me on the day that I showed up at my house, and she had showed up at her house, as did everybody else. And she said, oh, David. And she was never emotional like that at all. And her arms went out, and she just ran across the street, and we met in the middle of the road, and she just gave me the biggest hug. And we just cried in each other's arms. And, her wife came out, and she's like, I don't know what to do. So they had bought the house a few years before us, and we were all like just shaking our heads. We didn't know what to do. And then dealing with so many different contractors, and they're so shady. And during a time of turmoil, all the cockroaches come out, all the people come out to try to make money off you, which is the worst. That's got to be the worst. That's another strong memory I had. So we found someone that was good. To 9 months in August, sometime in August, we finally had our home rebuilt, and we moved in, and we were not homeless. And that was the end of that ordeal. Meanwhile, while it was being rebuilt, we sat with Senator Jack Reed and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. And they said that there's a thing called a government buyout, where your neighborhood could be bought out. And it's happened in places in the US. And I'm sure you guys need that. We said, yes, absolutely. I went up and down the street with a clipboard, finding out who in the neighborhood wants to be part of the buyout. And everybody signed up. We had like 13 people involved. They're like, yes, 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 absolutely. When you divide 1.2 million by 11 homes, 13 homes, that's not a lot of money. We're like, you know what? We can't take it, because we're going to be still in debt, and we're going to be out of a home. So we'll be homeless with 30,000 in debt or more. So I talked to someone that was very knowledgeable, and they said, there's a thing called bankruptcy. Thought about it. It was the big B for us, like, want to avoid the big B. But then I started reading up, and I realized the origin of it and why it came into existence is for people that are in a situation they cannot possibly get out of. So we could never sell our home. No one would buy it. if we stayed there, they said the chances of another flood are really imminent. And we're not talking another 100 years. They're saying within 5 years, it could be another flood equally as bad. So I had a conversation with my parents, and they agreed that we should take over their house. And in payment of that, we would take care of them. So we ended up with their house with no debt, which was great, but we ended up taking care of them for the remainder of their lives. And all three had since passed away as I sit here telling the story.
You can't even describe it. I just want to sit down and cry.
So in the course of all of this, I wrote tons of letters. I wrote saying that we required a waiver of our debt. They denied it. So we set up a payment plan.
Would have taken us the rest of our life.
Yep, $80 a month. That's what I took. They wanted more than that, but I said, I can give you $80 a month. And they agreed to it. Okay, so we paid that, went on and on and on. And then finally, and this didn't just happen to us. Keep in mind, Katrina happened around this time. They did the same thing to the people that were affected by Katrina. Everybody in the country got this letter saying FEMA made a mistake. We want our money back. And actually, there is a newspaper article.
Well, yeah, she kept everything.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at the newspaper articles, but there's
We were on the front page.
yeah, there's a Warwick Beacon with us on the front page living in our trailer. But there's also an article that the title is FEMA seeking return of disaster aid. And it said, agency says it made payments of more than $22 million to people who were ineligible.
Stupid.
So they said that FEMA is required by law to recover improperly spent money. But most of the people who were helped say they used the cash years ago and they didn't want to be financially punished because of the agency's error. And that's right in this article here. FEMA admits the payments were largely its own fault. So
They passed the law, didn't they?
but then Jack Reed again. Jack Reed was wonderful during this whole time. I can't say enough for him, about him. He was right on, his people anyway, I should say, were right on top of everything. And they were able to get FEMA to change their mind. And they sent us a letter in, let's see, okay. 2012, December of 2012, saying that after reviewing our case and all the documents that we submitted, because we sent them copies of every single bill of fixing this house, from PuraClean, from the contractor, from the electrician, everybody. I mean, I killed them with paperwork. That's probably why they decided. They probably said, this lady's crazy with all this paperwork. We can't deal with this anymore. Let's just, forget the 25 grand and the heck with it. But it said that had been approved for a full waiver and all collection activity will cease. And I remember opening up this letter and I just burst into tears because this was such a burden on us, not financially, but just that it was there hanging over us for something that wasn't our fault.